This is the Fourth Part Podcast, a podcast made by Freemasons to be enjoyed by all. The opinions of the hosts and the guests are their own, and do not reflect any Grand Lodge stance or opinion. And now here are your hosts, the grumpiest past master, and the OG Danielson.
First, before you join Masonry, Masonic piece of memorabilia.
Before I started?
Yeah, because I mean, we all had something that was like, wow, this is.
Oh, jeez.
We got some heavy stuff up here.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. What do I have that's pre-Masonry?
Well, do it like the weather people do it. Look at.
Well,
Yeah.
I actually, because I just set this up like a day ago, so I finally got it set up. So, the oldest thing that's in here, actually, not oldest like on the planet Earth, but my possession, is actually that black and white Mickey Mouse up there.
Okay.
I got that. Oh my God, I want to say I was probably like 10 down in Walt Disney World.
Club 33.
Yeah, I always thought it was interesting after I became a Mason to find that Walt Disney was a Mason.
And Demolay. Oh, Demolay.
And D. Malay, yeah. And he had Club 23, Club 33. And there was a lot of what was the thing you sent me?
Oh, it's on the, I believe it's by the log flume in Orlando. You have a box that says Hiram's Working Tools.
Yeah, man, that's so cool.
That is cool. I really want to jump, but I saw an alligator. It was a baby one. It was in the water, but if it wasn't there, I would have opened that box.
We Masons have a tendency of sneaking in like little things here and there and hiding it, things even in plain sight. And it's kind of funny that he would even put that there. And I'm surprised, to be totally honest with you, that it's lasted.
Really?
That somebody hasn't pulled it out of there.
Yeah.
That. Not saying that there's a culture of Freemasonry still in Disney. There's probably not much. I mean, there are probably brothers that work for Disney, obviously.
It's subtle.
But it's something that would be old enough for Walt Disney himself to say, hey, probably put this here. Or somebody who was an Imagineer that was a brother, snuck in a little Easter egg, and that it's still there.
That's big, too, with like the Pixar movies. I forget what number sequence, but it's the number of the classroom that a lot of these videographers and producers attended class. And they put that number in like a lot of the Pixar movies. It's in Toy Story, a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm. The other thing, actually one of the newer things that I've gotten, again, not newest as in age, but newest as in possessions, is this statue right here. This is it's probably hard to see.
It's a classic.
Yeah. So that is the brother to brother monument that's located in Gettysburg. And during the Battle of Gettysburg in the Civil War, a Confederate general was shot during Pickett's charge, and there was a brother Mason who recognized certain things when this brother was shot. He was a general. His name was General Armistead. And the Union officer noticed something that he was doing and came to his aid. And it actually was depicted in the movie Gettysburg too.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, it was that scene, and there's a famous painting of that, was depicted in that movie. And he rendered him aid, and General Hancock on the Union side, who was also a brother, who was actually friends with Armistead before the war, took him into their custody and tended for him. He ended up passing away and dying, but General Armistead actually took his possessions and made sure they got back to his wife, wrote his wife a letter. But this statue, actually, it's solid pewter. It weighs a ton.
Because that's an actual statue.
Yeah,
In Washington,
it's
right? Or Gettysburg?
in Gettysburg, in the Gettysburg National Cemetery. It's actually a statue there, a Masonic monument in the middle of the cemetery, and it's beautiful. It's gigantic, and it's a big square compasses. It says "Brother to brother, a nation undivided."
It's crazy. Isn't there what the Alamo? It's been rumored that a certain somebody survived because he was a brother.
Yeah, well, they kind of a conspiracy theory that Davy Crockett
Mm-hmm.
Davy Crockett might have survived the Alamo because Santa Anna was a Mason.
Right.
And there was several Masons actually in the Alamo. There was a few. I don't remember the exact number. I have to remember, read up on it again. But I want to say there was probably like 10 or so Masons in the Alamo during the attack. But Santa Anna was a Mason, and there's a conspiracy that Davy Crockett survived the Alamo, which would be pretty crazy if you think about it.
And in those days, you got to think about it. You had, the fur trade and a lot of other things going on where brothers really did travel.
Oh yeah,
So-
they were actually traveling.
Imagine during the Civil War. I mean, besides having a cousin on the other side, you have brothers on the other side that I was just with them at Lodge last week, and now we're shooting at each other.
Yeah. I mean, the Civil War. This is just one. It's just one story in the Civil War that became famous, but I'm sure in every war there has been countless times that something similar like that has happened, and it just went without history ever knowing.
But that shows how the roots of the fraternity have spread so far, and those Masonic core values you hold true, because to render aid to a brother and it's his deepest need, that's big.
Yeah.
That's real big.
Yeah.
There was something where in the Caribbean, that's real big, Masonry.
Yeah, I work with a guy who's Haitian.
Is he a mechanic?
No.
Yeah, because they have the mechanics out there as a lodge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not like that. Not like he's gonna work on your Honda.
No, but he's from Haiti.
Mhm.
Louis. Hey, Louis. What are you doing? He's Haitian.
Need
He,
aid?
he actually said that he's
Mhm.
like Freemasonry is huge
It's
here.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have actually, next time you get a chance to research it, they have mechanics lodges, and I don't know too much about them, but I've had a couple conversations with brothers from Barbados, and a lot of their inner workings is very similar.
Yeah. So, but this going back to the statue just real quick. So, a brother from our lodge gave it to us. That actually, he bought that, and that was a fundraiser to build that monument. And it was like $350 in the 90s. So it was pricey. That's my newest possession, as far as Masonic.
So that was one of the things they sold as a fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. They sold those. They had ceramic ones. They had, which were a little cheaper. Those were like $350 a solid pewter ones. And then they had ones that were gold plated pewter.
Have you ever seen one of those for sale?
No.
I mean, I've never
No.
seen one of those, and I've seen the monument on TV and stuff, but I didn't. When I saw that the other day when I came over, I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
I thought you had that made.
No, that's to me that was one of the nicest gifts I've ever gotten.
I wonder, like, if they had something like that during the building of the obelisk in Washington, because a lot of that
It was also funded by a lot of very wealthy people to begin with.
Yeah.
So maybe they had to, maybe they didn't. But I think these are all numbered. I think they're limited numbered. Like I'd have to. Yeah, they have like a limited number of them too.
Did you ever hear about that story with the obelisk? And how, because a lot of Masonic lodges donated stones, and there was a big anti-Masonic push. I think it was the 30s.
Oh, the anti-Masonic,
Right. And they stopped the building of it. And, once they decided to proceed, years later, That's why you have the discoloration about a 2/3 or a third of the way up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
'cause
talking
they-
about the George
Right.
the George Washington Monument,
The memorial,
The-
the obelisk,
the Washington Monument
Mhm.
down in D.C.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the reflecting pool
Yep.
in the front.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the obelisk in Manhattan.
No, the one in Washington.
Oh, okay.
And there was actually the executive board was infiltrated by anti-Masonic members.
Yeah, I forget. I watched a documentary on it that I think Brian Kilmeade did. The anchor, the news anchor, Brian
Oh,
Kilmeade.
yeah.
He did like a documentary on that, and they like go inside of it, and they show like all the states donated
Right,
stones,
Grand Lodges.
Grand Lodges,
World Grand
yeah,
Lodges.
like world Grand Lodges,
Yep.
countries. Like there was like one from France, like the whole country of
Yeah.
France, like, and
That quarry had like stopped. And shut
right,
down.
they couldn't go back to the same quarry, so
Right.
it's two separate colors.
Yeah.
I always thought it was just it weathered weird or something,
Yeah, no.
or
That was imagine having an anti-Masonic party. That's wild.
yeah.
That's wild.
The oldest thing I have in here is that the new Masonic trestle board. See that book right there?
Yeah, right up there.
That's from 1856. That was pretty cool.
I can't believe. Is this Mackey's right here? These two lower ones? I can't
Yes,
really
those
see.
are Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. Those
It's
are from the 1918.
It's amazing how many of those Masonic regalia you see that was produced or made in New York, and those buildings aren't there, or that company's
A
not
lot
there.
of the printers too. A lot
Yeah.
of like the printing companies were based in New York. So what was the most recent? I'm kind of curious.
Mhm.
Do you read Masonic books? Like,
I do.
are you a big reader?
I'm a big reader, but I'm a little bit unorthodox when I read. I don't read books in order unless it's a story. But the type of literature that I usually indulge in is informational.
What type of like information? Like,
Um,
like you don't read fiction, is what you mean?
no, it's mostly I like a lot of biographies. I like to see a growth in an individual. I like a lot of philosophy. As far as Masonic books, a lot of Manly P. Hall. But not as of late. It's been a while.
You love Manly P. Hall.
I do. I like that. I like his the Rosicrucians, background he has. I like a lot of that. I don't know if it's belief or philosophy or whatever, but that like universal knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's crazy. You got guys like Alexander Graham Bell and another guy on the other side of the world created the same invention, but one guy got credit for it.
Yeah, you're talking about the telephone.
Right.
Yeah. So our past master,
Mm-hmm.
Brother Chano, there's a brother that the guy who created the first radio.
Mm-hmm.
He was an Italian.
Marconi.
Marconi.
Yeah.
Apparently did that in
Right in
Babylon
Babylon.
Village.
Right.
So I'm gonna like comb through.
You know where it is?
It's on Fire Island Avenue, right, or something like that.
So remember when we went to our friend, shout out to Franz, in Babylon?
Mm-hmm.
So when you come in and you make that right to go down that long road, it's right on the corner. There's a blue sign. And that's where the first telegram was sent overseas, actually was in that location.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he asked me, he's like, do you think he was a brother in our lodge? And I said, I haven't seen anything that he actually became a brother of our lodge. I actually just, because I had them stored in the library, I have the original register of our lodge. I just picked it up today. I looked
that would
through
be
the
nuts.
old register because that's where every brother's name is listed that's ever become a brother.
Right.
But then I'm also going to grab the old minutes books and I'm going to thumb through them and see if he was a visitor ever.
Yeah, I mean, Italy was, it's either you're on one side about Masonry or the other side.
Yeah, it's very weird over there. I was actually trying to find what lodge he was a part of, but
Yeah.
it's a weird structure over there.
even till now, because, well, I don't know, this was within at least the last 20 years, where they actually had to send the minutes of each meeting to the government.
This is recently?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna look it up now, but I know for a while Stalin like pushed about.
Well, a lot of fascistic governments are terrified and tyrannical, I should say.
Right.
Governments doesn't have to be just fascist.
Anything free thinking.
Yeah, any
is a
free
threat.
thinking type of government has always been weary of masonry and what goes on in our lodges, because
Right.
why? It's a safe place for people to, speak their feelings, and you should be, and Masons can trust that, if you say something in confidence to each other, that it'll be kept that way.
Yeah, I mean, plus,
And that's kind of like a lot of the conspiracy theorists that I see, like on social media and everything, that's kind of like what they kind of tie to.
yeah,
They're like, oh, it's so secret. Oh, like, what are you hiding? It's like, well, I mean, if you have friends, like you have friends that they might confide in you in something, and you don't go spilling that to the world either. It's similar to that,
yeah, right. I mean, any system that endorses individual freedom of thought has always been looked down upon and is an enemy of a system that breeds dependence. You know what I mean? Because they want you needing something as opposed to being your own, like, fountain of whatever nourishment.
Yeah. I guess the question I have to you is, what's the craziest, if we brought it up, what's the craziest conspiracy theory that you've heard lately? Is there one that sticks out in your mind?
I mean, they're all nuts, and not to mention 90% of the documentaries on Masonry are written by people who aren't Masons.
Yeah.
It's outsiders looking in.
Or somebody who maybe was only an entered apprentice, or,
Yeah.
I love hearing we get this a lot on social media. It's like, well, what level are you Mason? Like, and people fail to realize that there is no levels of Masonry. There's degrees, which are sets of lessons. Once you become an entered apprentice, we call you a brother. The only thing that changes really is what you learn from there on out.
Right.
And the entered apprentices are just in the beginning of their journey. And then once you become a third degree, a Master Mason, everyone thinks, oh, if you're a 33rd degree, that's it. Now you're ruling the world. And the Scottish Rite I only recently joined the Scottish Rite, and I haven't finished it yet. But the Scottish Rite is expounding upon those 3 degrees, going into depth, into certain aspects of it. And it's not teaching you anything different per se. It's just a deeper dive in to each degree and each piece of it. You can take one little section of one degree, and that can end up, in say the entered apprentice degree, the first degree. And they'll take one little snippet of it, and they turn that into an entire degree in the Scottish Rite.
Yeah, no,
really
absolutely.
Explaining it,
gets
really
into
going back to the history of it.
It gets down, down into the nitty gritty. Now, is it that obvious to the members?
I mean, it's to some members. It could be obvious.
Because we were talking about this last episode, where a lot of the, depending on the era you were brought into Masonry, you have like cliques where guys join just to be part of a fraternity, and they were the best brother you can have at that point in time, or even still now, because we have so many brothers that have been together 50, 60 years, good friends. And then you have, I think, in our generation, the esotericness kind of was more appealing to us. I know for me it was.
Yeah, well, people join Masonry for different reasons.
So the
Right?
the
And
brothers,
that might change over time.
right?
They might start off saying, I want to join Masonry because, you know, I just want to hang out with the guys. Like, I just want to, the fellowship of it. I want to have a nice dinner, a couple beers with the guys, maybe talk about
camaraderie.
philosophy and have that camaraderie. And, it's more of the fraternal aspect for them. And then there's guys that are just about intellectual stuff, esoteric stuff, deep thinking, deep philosophy stuff. And then there's guys that are just about, all I want to do is charity work, but that might evolve like as they get older. They might say that might shift back and forth. It might become a combination of a few things, So I think lodges nowadays need to try to cater to all of them. You can't just have just a social club with nothing else. You can't have just a charity organization with nothing else. You could focus if that's like your thing in your lodge where you're just heavy on charity, but you got to have that other stuff too. Otherwise you're going to lose brothers that can develop through their life. Because when people join, they've got like kind of probably one thing in their mind that they're looking for.
Do you think that's where, maybe Masonry's gift and curses, where there's an avenue for guys who want the esotericness? There's almost too many options sometimes. Where you got like, all right, the Scottish Rite. I find there's a lot of brothers there that are appealing to that. Where you have the spiritualism, the esotericness, all of that. And then the Blue Lodge is more, and then you have the Shrine. You have all these different avenues for whatever but we almost spread ourselves too thin.
Yeah, the one thing that an older past master said when I became a Master Mason was, and it was the best advice I ever got, was don't join too many things.
Mm-hmm.
right out of the gate. Like, Masonry is a lifelong journey. It's supposed to be a lifelong journey. If you really, Louis, you're gonna bring your bone in here and eat it. And it's supposed to be a lifelong journey, and if you don't pace yourself in the beginning, you burn yourself out.
Oh, without a doubt.
I gotta evict him.
Oh, Louis, sorry, brother. He's going down. Here's my shoelace.
Come here, buddy. Come here. Hey, you want to be famous? Come here.
What was the crazy? I'm gonna revert that question back to you. The craziest conspiracy theory you heard, and also before you were Mason versus after you were Mason, like because you hear those two are synonymous.
Let's get to that in a second.
All right,
let me evict the dog real quick. So we're back.
Yeah.
We had to evict Louis, my 11-month-old Boston Terrier. He was too busy chomping away his bone.
So back, I think I was asking you the
Conspiracy theory?
Yeah. Craziest Masonic conspiracy theory.
I mean, there's a guy I'm not even going to give him props for it. There is a guy on TikTok that, and it's nothing against like people that are very like Christian, but the things that he like tries to tie into the Bible and with Masonry and Satanism, and like Masonry and like slaves. Listen, were there Southerners that were Masons that had slaves? Yes. Were there Masons, Northerners that didn't have slaves? Yes. It was you're a product of your environment in which you grow up in, and the time, and
what was deemed appropriate for that era.
Right. For as many Masons that had slaves, there's probably just as many who didn't, and some, and maybe some that were indifferent, or maybe some that were abolitionists. But to say that everything, that it was a systematic thing, because this specific person who was a slave owner had slaves, therefore all of Masonry was endorsing slavery
Right.
was a little ridiculous to me.
Yeah, it is crazy because once you impose Masonic principles on American lifestyle, and as a Mason, you would know, um, that's when the liberation of America started happening. Once you injected Masonic principles into American culture and lifestyle, that's when the pursuit of happiness, whatever made you happy,
Mm-hmm.
and America is the greatest experiment the world has seen, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
Day by day it gets better, and sometimes when you have too much information, that's a problem. So you have to also, the same way you have to be responsible what you say, you got to be responsible what you take in.
Abraham Lincoln wanted to become a Freemason.
Right.
He had actually written that he wanted to, but right when he was going to join, I think he actually petitioned
Mm-hmm.
a lodge.
It's the Pennsylvania Lodge, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one, but I think I remember reading he petitioned a lodge,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was going to run for president, and he withdrew his petition because he didn't want to be elected because he was a Mason. He didn't want to be elected because
Right.
he was a part of any one organization. He wanted America to vote for him because of what he stood for,
Right.
which is a phenomenal thing. And you know what? He probably would have became a Mason in his latter part of his life. I could see someone like that joining in the latter part of his life. If he
Yeah.
was that interested before,
Imagine
probably-
the contributions he would have brought to the fraternity.
yeah. And that kind of goes, we'd actually spoke about this once. It goes back to another conspiracy theory is that, like, the Masons rule the world. Or,
Oh, yeah.
Masons rule the world, because look at all these influential people that were, Masons.
I was just going to ask you
And
this.
It's not that Masons they were Masons before
Mm-hmm.
they were, right? They were Masons. Did Masonry make them to give them the tools to achieve the greatness that they were, their character? Did it teach them how to act a certain way that made them appealing to everybody?
Well, yes. I mean, success and Masonry are like synonymous together. And
But did Masonry hand them that, or did Masonry teach them
Well, that's
that?
That's what we.
I think it's the latter. To be honest, we didn't hand them the presidency. If we could,
Mm-hmm.
if we were able to do that, why haven't we done it since Ford? It just is a system of morality that people live their lives by, and they achieved greatness. They didn't always join to achieve greatness.
Well, yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah.
for every George Washington, for every Benjamin Franklin, for every every other famous Mason, look at Richard Pryor, and like you could even like pop culture people that are Masons, like.
Right, the fraternity didn't catapult you that way in the networking stage, and in some places it did.
Yeah.
But I think the Masonic teachings and principles, ultimately, that constant reminder that you got to be the greatest version of yourself, or to keep chiseling away at it,
Mhm.
naturally, because you're living with that intention, you're gonna achieve greatness.
Yeah, and you got guys like Teddy Roosevelt. He wasn't. He was how he was.
Oh yeah, he was an animal.
Yeah, probably one of the most interesting people that's ever lived.
Yeah.
If you read about his life, being, kind of, I don't want to say disabled, but like a sickly kid,
Yeah.
and then being a Rough Rider, getting shot and giving a speech with a bullet in him. He gave like an 80-minute speech after he was an assassination attempt.
Safaris, Panama. His tour in Panama was crazy.
Yeah. And had the attitude of the fuck it, I'm just gonna get it done attitude. Hella high
Yeah.
water, we're just gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen. That make it happen mentality. Did Masonry did he only just contribute to Masonry, or did Masonry give him the tools to be that way? I mean, his shaping of his life happened because of his state of his, his health when he was younger, and his family had status. So to say that he became president because of Masonry is absurd, because he came from a wealthy family. He came from an influential family. He achieved greatness out of his own right, and that's what Masonry is about. Is that you need to use the tools that you were given when you were born to make the best version of yourself, and Masonry is going to teach you a few extras.
Well, I feel it gives you a shortcut, because, being a sickly kid, you could let that defeat you.
Mm-hmm.
But to be conscious that there's a better version of myself somewhere, I just have to find a path to find it or to bring it out, because it's in all of us. And Masonry shines light in the dark corners of the room and shows you, okay, if you want to achieve excellence, follow this route that your ancient brothers have followed.
Yeah.
Make sure that you understand that whatever you do, just do it well. Do it with the best intention. And these are core teachings that you need to follow. And you will highlight that. And then as you do it, it's like, wow, it's almost addicting when you present yourself in the greatest light, the stuff that you get, whether it's a promotion. And again, the promotion may not come because of the fraternity, but the Masonic teachings ultimately bring out that best version of yourself.
Yeah. And again, like going back though, for every George Washington, Teddy Roosevelt, and name upon name upon name that were brothers, there's millions, not even thousands, millions of people that are Masons that make the world a better place, that don't have that fame.
Now,
and that's what Masonry is proud
absolutely.
of. We're proud of our famous brothers, because those are the ones that we're able to, hold up to the world and go, look at the caliber of person that we're able to say we're a part of the same system with.
Or even that it attracts. Like,
Right,
this system is so great, it attracts great people.
Right. And some of these brothers, a lot of them, very few of them started young.
Yeah.
Very few of them started young. Were they great before? George Washington was on the younger side before he was very famous. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin was on the younger side. But a lot of these brothers, including Teddy Roosevelt, his career was already rolling.
When FDR,
yeah, he was, in his 20s, he was already well known.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't gather that fame. Again, comes from another very influential family. He didn't gather that fame because of Masonry. He used what Masonry had to teach to enhance what he already had.
Right.
And not by guaranteed votes, not by some sort of nefarious system set up to ensure that only Masons were able to get into positions of power. And it's a double-edged sword too, because if Masons were controlling the world, as some conspiracy theorists say that we are, wouldn't we be all living some palatial life? Wouldn't we all of our lodges wouldn't be, hurting and run down? Some lodges are more run down, and it's not run down because the brothers don't care. It's just, they have to work hard to maintain their building, and a lot of brothers take pride in their lodge and take care of it, and they do the best they can. If we were running the world, wouldn't every lodge be like, the Grand Lodge in New York, or the House of the Temple in D.C.?
Right.
Every lodge would look like that, right? If we were running the world, and everyone goes, oh well, you're not high enough level. What's a high enough level? There is no levels.
Right.
At what point do you say, where are these people? Where are these people that you think that are ruling the world?
Absolutely. I mean, Masonry, we have to change that. One, if Masonry was trying to do anything like that, they'd be better at defending themselves.
Well, that's the thing too. Is we
don't
do
defend
not.
ourselves.
We
right?
don't because you know what it is. It's we look at it as should we do? Should we even? Does it even require a? We're big on letting our actions speak.
Right. And
Then it doesn't even require a response. It doesn't elicit a response from us.
Right.
It's not even worth our
The energy.
time, the energy, because we have too many other good things to be doing to be worrying about some crazy and that's our own fault, because not that we need to go on the offensive, but I think there's plenty in masonry that we could show the world that we do other than Shriners Hospital.
you don't even want to waste your time, because that's not the type of people that the craft should attract. And like haters, if you don't have any haters, you're not doing anything right.
Right. If you have no enemies, then you're not doing it. Who said that? That was that's actually a famous quote. And oh man, I'm gonna have to look that up because that's gonna bother me.
But yeah, I mean, we got to change that narrative to masonry enhances the world. We're not trying to rule the world. We're trying to enhance the human experience, and whether it's through membership and breeding a higher caliber of man, either way it enhances it. If you're not a member, because you're gonna have that type of influence. I mean, if you ever research masonry in the Midwest and further out west, masonry was a rolling government. You'd have a lodge, then a lot of those brothers would construct. You had the library, the schoolhouse, the courthouse,
Mhm.
the firehouse, and then all right, we're just gonna chill over here. It's rolling government. I mean, masonry had such a big part in going west. You're still researching?
No, I didn't want to say it without me checking,
Mhm.
but because I was like 99% sure it was him.
You gotta make mistakes, bro.
No, because I don't want to get that one wrong, because I was 99% sure that it was him because he's famous enough.
Who was it?
It was a Mason that said that.
That said what?
If,
Ain't no fun if the homies can't get
If you
none.
don't have any, if you have no enemies,
Mm-hmm.
if you have enemies,
Mhm.
then that means you stood for something, or if
Right.
you stood for something right in your life, and that was said by Winston Churchill.
Oh, there you go. He was also an amazing guy.
You just like him because he is a big cigar smoker.
I mean, no, but you know what? I was watching a movie with him, and oh man, what movie was it? It was based on it might have been Churchill, and he had to make a big decision. And forgive me again, I don't mean to spread falsities, but I do remember the scene, and they were trying to get in touch with him. All right, we need to know, what are we gonna do? And he jumped on the train, and he was asking.
That was The Darkest Hour.
Yes, and he was asking the public, and to be able to bet on yourself, and you have all these people who are around you, and that a lot of times they're pushing their narrative, but to get out there and put yourself on the front line and have that organic human encounter with other people, to be vulnerable.
Yeah, to be
That's
willing
leadership.
willing to hear the hard things.
Right.
To be willing to hear the hard.
Yeah.
That's I mean,
Open to critique.
oh God. When you're in a lodge and you're a master, if you're giving degree work and you can't take the criticism, you're in the wrong place. And it's criticism coming from a place of love
Yes.
in a lodge.
Yes.
That's what people have a hard time getting used to that. If you can put yourself in the mindset that I know every brother, when they come to me, even if it may come off a little sharp-edged
Mm-hmm.
or a little like abrasive when they say it, if you can always have in the back of your mind that their intention is with love,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll be able to grow as a person. And don't think the worst first,
Right.
because too many people think the worst all the time. Like that's their default, is they automatically assume someone's got an agenda, someone's got some sort of nefarious intentions, or they're just being mean.
And that comes from how they move. And one of the things our last our most recent past master, Chano.
Mhm.
Love him to death. He is so good at taking criticism. Maybe not in the moment, but when you listen to him speak and he's like, yeah, he's supposed to tell me that. We're supposed to disagree because that means he is invested in me enough that he wants me to be a better version.
And on the most basic level,
Right.
On the most basic level, you should take
Criticism.
criticism. You should be happy
And
that
coachable.
that person
Right.
was actually listening to you and paying attention to you. Because if they're able to formulate an opinion to give you criticism, that means that they had enough respect for you to actually be listening to what you were doing or paying attention to what you were doing. And that should make you proud and also motivate you to say, wow, I have this person's attention. I have this person's attention.
I'm worthy.
I'm worthy of them actually being invested in what I'm saying, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and they feel comfortable enough to come to me and know that I'll listen to them. Because it's a two-way street. If they're going to expect me to listen to them and hear their thoughts on it, that's how me and you I think we work really well together.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I know that what I say to you, you're going to hear me out, even if we don't agree.
Right.
You're going to hear me. You're going to process it too, because hearing somebody and not being so set into your position that you can't be even shifted a tiny bit, and processing it and then feeding it back to me, that's something that's rare in the world, unless you have a very, very, very close friend. But in Masonry, it's crazy because there are brothers that I am friends with. I'm friends with every brother in my lodge, but there are brothers that maybe I wouldn't call close friends.
Right.
And I only see them on meeting nights, or I only see them at lodge, or maybe I see them in a couple of events. But there's still that open street where we can say to each other something, and I know he's going to take it and he's going to process it and he's going to use it in his thought process, as well as him, what he says to me.
Well, I mean, the other thing too, and this is one of the things I love. I've always been, and we speak about this, one of the younger gentlemen in the room. And in the workplace or out in public, you find people who are already established. They see something in you that resonates with them, and they're trying to create a protege.
Mm-hmm.
In Masonry, it's the complete opposite. You see a little bit and you're like, oh man, you know what? I see something similar to me and him, or vice versa, and I'm going to capitalize on his strengths. I'm not going to try to make another version of me. I'm going to try to capitalize on his strengths and highlight that. So you're creating ultimately another individual. So it's not like, oh, you remind me of so-and-so. No, you're your own unique person. And then you walk into the world and nobody's ever met another version of yourself because people are watering that tree. They're not saying, oh, I don't like the way he's growing. Let me bring him back over here because this is not right. That's not right. No, they're really character building and building you as an individual.
Yeah. And Masonry is big on the let's take the journey together. It's big
Yeah.
on the we're gonna take this walk together
Cheers to
thing,
that.
and not just it's about me.
Yeah, you're never alone.
And there's still individualism. There's plenty of that, because again, that the conspiracy theorists will say, oh, see their cult. It's everything's together. Like, get the white sneakers, wear the white Nikes, and let's drink the Kool-Aid. And no, it's about individual growth together.
Well, also, though, think about it. A lot of organizations that thrive with a lot of membership, those members come to that system in their weakest mind state at that point. They're needing to be healed. Masonry is almost the opposite, where I'm coming to you in a headstrong and I'm ready to go. Like, let's go, let's do this. Let's charge the mountain. You know, I've heard what we're about, and I've seen the prestigious members that this fraternity has, and what could I do for you? Not what you could do for me. Don't heal me, but how can I be of service in that, aspect?
Yeah, Masonry has a tendency of saying to people, whatever higher power you believe in, know that the brotherhood of man is here now, and you're able to do what you can for man now. And if you're not doing that, then you're not contributing to the world. And if you're not contributing to the world, you're not leaving it for future Masons, for your children, for society any better. And that's a wasted life.
So, peeling back layers, Masonry is very metaphoric. Would you agree? In essence,
I mean, I don't think it gets everything in Masonry is a metaphor.
So
it's a symbol and it's a metaphor for something.
Right. So when you're seeking more light in Masonry, does that mean Masonry guides you brighter in life? Your Masonic, the more light is actually the rule and guide as far as working tools, metaphors, teachings. As you go up in degrees, and third degree is the highest you can go, for clarity, does that mean Masonry just becomes more of your life?
That's a deep, it's a tough question. When you become a Mason, you should be trying to apply the lessons that you learn daily, right? Because we call them tools, right? There's a lot of symbols in Masonry, but there is a set amount of working tools. So what are tools used for?
To complete a job.
To complete a job. And what job?
And also to make that job easier.
Very good. What do you think the job in Masonry is? Because this could be kind of like looked at a few different ways. What do you personally think?
You're taking me to the deep side of the
Okay,
pool
what
right
do
now.
you think then the job that you are set to as a builder, Mason, is in Masonry?
Well,
for you personally.
For me,
because it's a personal thing. It's not a
group.
There isn't an answer. There isn't a answer that Masonry gives you specifically that can't be interpreted individually.
So, in my humble opinion, and this is what I believe at this point in my life, tomorrow it may be different. That's the beautiful thing about Masonry. The tools that Masonry gives you to build is to build yourself. Ultimately, it's your self journey. You're building yourself to the best version of yourself, and those are what those tools are in its simplest form, in my opinion. And I think this is where you're going with it. If I'm wrong, stop me now.
Just go. I could pivot. Don't just keep going. Just spit it out. What you want me to spit out, bro?
Yeah, no, to just build. And it's tough because, again, this is going to be played for people who aren't Masons, so you really can't give the answer. So I'm trying to water down the answer in a way, without giving examples and stuff like that. But when we talk on here, and I get it, it's difficult, and I only slightly learned
this was just, again, a learned skill, which a lot of everything in Masonry things you learn in Masonry you can use through life, is If you can find it in a book that can be bought on Amazon or purchased in a library,
Right.
that's not a Masonic secret, bro.
Yeah,
you
but
can talk about it, and I get it. We don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but for me, the experience, and I've always said this when I was master, the initiatic experience,
right.
is what moves people. It's not just reading words on a page. You know, your religion of choice, your spiritual book of your choice could do that for you. There are people that become spiritual and find their God in their own way by reading scripture. But what's most religions of the world, how do they really move people? Right?
I mean, you're building your relationship with yourself better, and that's
Right, but what I'm saying is
ahead.
how take Catholicism,
Mm-hmm.
Judaism, Buddhism,
It's the main,
Islam,
right?
Any religion. People could read words on a page, but what is the moment that really can grab them and motivate them? And the easy one could be the televangelists,
Mm-hmm.
right? The people in the Baptist churches, jumping around,
performing,
right?
and
What is that though? That's a ritualistic experience. You could read the Bible,
mm-hmm.
the Torah, the Quran, and so on and so on and so on, and it could be motivational to you. And there are people in the world that can read that and it moves them.
Oh, yeah, it grabs them.
But for most people in the world, going to church on Sunday, going to temple, going to, I forget. Oh, geez.
Well, how does that relate to
the
Masonry?
Islamic temple,
Right.
and going to the actual service,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a person giving a sermon or a talk,
Mm-hmm.
and the Catholicism loves their,
Well,
that and people someone gives a good sermon, they're like, I'm gonna live my life this way. I'm gonna and they read something from the Bible. I'm just gonna use the Bible. I'm
Right.
Christian, so they read something and you're like, oh man, like I did that last week. Oh man, I should have, and that moves them. That's a ritualistic thing, right?
well, as your co-host, because we're getting deep into the woods right now.
So then why don't we do
what,
this?
Wait.
Yeah.
Just to clear it up, you're referencing religion,
Mhm.
and we do such a good job to establish that Masonry isn't a religion.
Mm-hmm.
We're speaking about moral law and ritualistic, ritualistic things, and when again
Ritualistic ceremonies,
right? Ceremonies.
So
right.
like ceremonial things, and I guess we should probably pick this up
Mm-hmm.
on the next episode.
Yeah, this is gonna get heavy.
So thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you guys always. The support is big, and again, don't leave feedback. We
Yes.
love the feedback.
Like, follow, subscribe, and may your cornerstone always be level, square, and true, and may your journey through Freemasonry in life be aged in the barrel of life.
Oof, I'm not even gonna try to top that. Square your actions.